Parenting Strategies for Teens: A Philosophical Approach to Guiding Growth, by Cherry C. Introduction. Raising teenagers is both a challenge and a privilege. It is a stage of parenting that is often described as tumultuous, filled with resistance and emotional highs and lows. Yet, it is also a period of profound transformation, one that shapes not only the future of your child but also your own growth as a parent. The teen years are often misunderstood, feared, or met with frustration, yet they present a rare and invaluable opportunity. The chance to guide a young person as they transition from childhood to adulthood, as they form their own identity, and as they learn how to navigate an unpredictable world. For many parents, this phase brings uncertainty. The child who once eagerly held your hand now seeks independence, sometimes pulling away in ways that feel abrupt or painful. Communication, which once felt effortless, may now be met with eye rolls, silences, or cryptic one-word responses. The rules and approaches that worked in early childhood suddenly feel ineffective, leaving many parents wondering if they are making mistakes or if their relationship with their teen will ever return to the closeness they once cherished. But what if we shift our perspective? Instead of viewing adolescence as a battle to be won or a storm to be weathered, what if we see it as an evolution, an unfolding process that requires patience, understanding, and a willingness to adapt? This book offers a fresh approach to parenting teenagers, one that blends practical strategies with deeper, timeless philosophical insights. Rather than imposing rigid rules, it explores adaptable principles that encourage resilience, self-discovery, and meaningful relationships. Parenting as an evolving dialogue. Parenting a teen is not about maintaining control, it is about fostering connection. One of the most fundamental shifts that parents must make during this stage is recognizing that their role is changing. In early childhood, the parent is the architect of their child's world, setting rules, enforcing discipline, and providing constant guidance. But as a child matures, their need for autonomy grows. They begin questioning authority, forming their own beliefs, and experimenting with their identity. This is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is the natural and necessary process of self-discovery. For parents, this transition can feel destabilizing. There is an understandable fear that too much independence will lead to reckless decisions, that a looser grip may result in mistakes with lasting consequences. However, control and influence are not the same thing. A teenager does not need an authoritative figure demanding obedience. They need a mentor, a trusted guide, someone who is willing to engage in open and honest conversations rather than issue commands. Throughout this book, we will approach parenting as an evolving dialogue, not just between you and your teen, but also between you and yourself. Parenting forces us to confront our own beliefs, fears, and assumptions. The challenges that arise during adolescence often hold a mirror up to us, reflecting our deepest insecurities, our unresolved struggles, and our own need for growth. In guiding our children, we are often called to reassess our own values, our own emotional patterns, and even the ways we were parented. This book does not claim to have all the answers. Instead, it offers perspectives, insights, and guiding principles to help navigate this complex and deeply personal journey. Each chapter presents a thought-provoking theme: trust, resilience, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and more, interwoven with real-life stories and actionable reflections. The goal is not to prescribe a one-size-fits-all method, but to offer tools and perspectives that allow you to adapt to your unique child and your unique family dynamic. The myth of the perfect parent. One of the greatest burdens parents carry is the belief that they must get it right at all times, that a single misstep could permanently damage their child or their relationship. This pressure often leads to an exhausting cycle of self-doubt, guilt, and overcompensation. But the truth is, perfection in parenting does not exist. Mistakes are inevitable, and in many ways, they are necessary. Your teen is not looking for a flawless, all-knowing authority figure. They are looking for authenticity. They are looking for someone who is willing to acknowledge when they have made a mistake, someone who is willing to listen, and someone who can offer guidance without judgment. Adolescents are remarkably perceptive. They can sense when a parent is operating from fear rather than wisdom, when discipline is about control rather than growth, and when communication is a veiled attempt at manipulation rather than genuine connection. One of the core themes of this book is the importance of self-awareness in parenting. How do our own fears shape the way we parent? Are we reacting out of a desire to protect, or out of a deeper anxiety about losing control? Are we projecting our own unmet expectations onto our child, mistaking their journey for our own? By reflecting on these questions, we can move beyond reactive parenting and instead cultivate a relationship based on mutual trust and understanding. The power of resilience and growth. Adolescence is a time of intense emotional, psychological, and social development. It is a period where failures and setbacks are inevitable, where identity is in flux, and where the pressure to define one's future can feel overwhelming. As parents, we often wish we could shield our children from pain, rejection, or failure. We want to smooth their path, to ensure that they never experience hardship. And yet, in doing so, we may inadvertently rob them of the very experiences that cultivate resilience. Resilience is not built in comfort, it is built in struggle. But struggle alone is not enough. Growth happens when teens are given the tools to process their experiences, to understand their failures not as reflections of their worth, but as stepping stones toward maturity. The role of a parent is not to prevent hardship, but to provide the support and guidance that helps a teen learn from it. This book will explore practical ways to foster resilience in teenagers, helping them develop emotional intelligence, cope with setbacks, and build a sense of inner strength. It will also challenge the idea that success is defined by external achievements, advocating instead for a deeper, more intrinsic sense of fulfillment. Finding balance, the dance of support and independence. One of the most delicate balancing acts in parenting is knowing when to step in and when to step back. Some parents fall into the trap of over-involvement, micromanaging every aspect of their teen's life out of fear that they will make poor choices. Others withdraw too soon, assuming that their child no longer needs their presence or guidance. Both extremes can be harmful. Teens need space to make their own decisions, to test their boundaries, and to take ownership of their lives. However, they also need to know that their parents are a steady and unwavering presence, available for guidance without force, for support without smothering. Parenting during adolescence is not about handing over the reins completely. It is about gradually shifting responsibility in a way that fosters competence and confidence. This book will explore strategies for maintaining this delicate balance, how to build trust, how to encourage responsibility, and how to create an environment where open communication is possible. A journey, not a destination. If there is one message that this book hopes to impart, it is this. Parenting is not about reaching a final, perfect outcome. It is a journey, one that requires patience, adaptation, and continuous learning. Your teen is not a fixed entity, and neither are you. Both of you will grow, evolve, and change throughout this process. By the end of this book, my hope is that you will not only have a deeper understanding of your teen, but also a renewed appreciation for the complexity and beauty of guiding them through life's transitions. Parenting a teenager is not just about teaching them how to navigate the world. It is about growing alongside them, embracing the uncertainties, and finding joy in the process. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Art of Letting Go. Trust, Freedom, and Boundaries. To raise a child is to prepare them for a world that you cannot control. One of the most difficult realities of parenting is that, from the moment your child is born, you are in a slow and steady process of letting go. As babies, they depend on you for everything: their survival, their comfort, their sense of safety. As toddlers, they begin to take their first wobbly steps away from you, exploring the world but still looking back to make sure you're there. In childhood, they rely on you to set the rules, define the structure of their world, and provide guidance at every turn. Then comes adolescence. Suddenly, the child who once clung to your hand now pulls away. They want more independence, more autonomy, more freedom to make their own choices, some of which might make you uneasy. They start questioning your rules, asserting their opinions, and seeking validation from peers rather than parents. It is a shift that feels both inevitable and, for many parents, deeply unsettling. The fear of letting go is universal. It is rooted in love and the primal instinct to protect. We want our children to be safe, to make good choices, to avoid the mistakes we made, or worse, the mistakes we never even saw coming. But as much as we may want to hold on, parenting is not about control. It is about preparation. The goal is not to raise a child who is dependent on you forever, but to raise a young adult who is capable, resilient, and ready to navigate life's challenges with confidence. Letting go does not mean disengaging. It does not mean stepping back and allowing chaos to unfold. Instead, it is about finding the delicate balance between trust and guidance, between freedom and boundaries. It is about shifting your role from manager to mentor, from rule enforcer to trusted advisor. This chapter explores the paradox of freedom, how too much control stifles growth, that too little leaves teens unprepared. We will also delve into the idea of trust as an investment rather than a reward, exploring how to foster responsibility in a way that empowers your child rather than instills fear. Finally, we'll share a real-life story of a parent's struggle with letting go, illustrating the fears and lessons that come with this transition. The paradox of freedom: too much control versus too little. The teenage years are a bridge between childhood and adulthood, time when young people are learning how to function independently while still needing the structure and support of family. Parents often find themselves swinging between two extremes, holding on too tightly or letting go too soon. Neither approach is ideal. 1. The trap of over-control. Some parents respond to their teens' growing independence with stricter rules, increased monitoring, and an attempt to exert even more control. The reasoning is understandable. If you can just oversee every aspect of their life, you can protect them from bad decisions, peer pressure, and potential dangers. However, excessive control can backfire. When teens feel micromanaged, they often respond with secrecy, rebellion, or resentment. Instead of internalizing responsibility, they become experts at avoiding detection. Instead of learning decision-making skills, they become reliant on external rules, rather than developing their own sense of judgment. Moreover, excessive control can erode trust. If a teen feels they are constantly being watched, questioned, or doubted, they may start to believe that they are not capable of making good decisions, or worse, that their parents don't believe in them. This can damage self-confidence and lead to a fractured parent-child relationship. 2. The risks of too much freedom. On the other hand, some parents take the opposite approach, giving their teen too much independence too soon. Some do this because they trust their child completely, while others do it out of exhaustion, believing that their teen will figure things out on their own. While independence is crucial, too much too soon can leave teens feeling lost, unprepared, and overwhelmed. Freedom without guidance can lead to poor decision-making, not because teens are reckless by nature, but because they are still developing the ability to think long-term, weigh consequences, and regulate emotions. The adolescent brain is wired for risk-taking and impulsivity, and while experience is the best teacher, a lack of structure can result in mistakes with significant consequences. The key then is balance. Instead of extreme control or complete freedom, teens need a structured form of independence that allows them to practice responsibility in a safe and supportive environment. Trust as an investment, not a reward. Many parents see trust as something that must be earned, a privilege that teens receive only after proving they are responsible. While it is true that trust should not be given blindly, it is also important to recognize that trust itself is a learning process. If we wait for our children to demonstrate perfect responsibility before allowing them independence, we may never give them the opportunities they need to grow. Trust should be seen as an investment. Just as a financial investment involves some risk with the expectation of long-term growth, parental trust involves calculated risks with the goal of teaching responsibility. When a teen is given trust, they learn that their choices have weight. They learn that they are capable, that their parents believe in them, and that their actions have consequences, both good and bad. This does not mean handing over complete freedom all at once. Instead, trust should be granted in stages, increasing as the teen demonstrates reliability. If they make mistakes, it should not mean all trust is revoked, but rather that adjustments are made. Trust is not a one-time test. It is an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and growing together. Personal anecdote. The first solo trip. For many parents, one of the hardest moments of letting go is allowing their teen to experience something new and potentially risky without their direct supervision. One mother, Emily, vividly remembers the first time she had to make this choice. Her 16-year-old daughter, Lily, had been invited on a weekend trip with friends to a nearby city. The parents of one of Lily's friends were going, but they would not be monitoring the girls at all times. Emily's first instinct was to say no. What if something happened? What if the girls made reckless choices? What if they got lost, or worse? But then she paused. She knew Lily was responsible. She had always followed curfews, kept in touch when out with friends, and had never given her parents a reason to doubt her judgment. More importantly, Emily realized that if she didn't let Lily take small steps toward independence now, she would never learn how to navigate the world safely. After many conversations and setting clear expectations, such as regular check-ins and a safety plan, Emily agreed to let her go. The weekend went smoothly, and when Lily returned, she was proud of how she had managed her own plans, budgeted her spending money wisely, and even helped a lost tourist find their way. For Emily, this experience was a turning point. It was proof that trust fosters responsibility. Had she said no out of fear, she might have sent the message that she didn't believe in Lily's ability to handle new situations. Instead, by allowing this experience, she reinforced the idea that independence is not something to fear, but something to approach with preparation and confidence. Chapter summary. Key takeaways. Trust is a foundation, not a test. Parents should view trust as something that is built gradually through experience, not as a reward that teens must earn perfectly. Boundaries should evolve as teens prove responsibility. Setting clear and reasonable limits allows teens to practice independence while still having a safety net. Letting go does not mean disengaging. It is not about withdrawing support, but shifting from control to guidance, from rules to mentorship. Letting go is never easy, but it is essential. It is the process of preparing your child for a world that you cannot control, a world that they must learn to navigate on their own. By finding the balance between trust and boundaries, by investing in their growth rather than fearing their mistakes, you give them the greatest gift of all, the ability to trust themselves. Chapter 2. The mirror effect: what teens teach us about ourselves. Parenting is not just about raising a child. It's about raising ourselves. Parenting a teenager is often described as one of life's greatest challenges. The sudden shifts in mood, the defiance, the eye rolls, the unpredictable swings between independence and neediness. It can all feel overwhelming. Many parents find themselves asking, "Why does my teen push my buttons so much? Why do I react so strongly to their behavior? Why do some of our interactions feel so emotionally charged?" The answer is often more complex than we realize. While we may assume that our frustration comes from our teen's behavior alone, the truth is that their actions often reveal something deeper, something about us. Teenagers have an uncanny way of holding up a mirror to our own fears, insecurities, and unresolved emotional patterns. In their defiance, we may see reflections of our own suppressed anger. In their struggles with self-doubt, we may recognize our own unspoken fears of failure. Their procrastination, rebellion, or disengagement may trigger something in us that has nothing to do with them at all. What if the struggles we have with our teens are not just about them, but also about us? This chapter explores how our emotional reactions to our children often reveal more about our own unresolved issues than about their actual behavior. We will introduce the idea of reactive parenting versus reflective parenting, emphasizing how self-awareness can transform the way we interact with our teens. Through personal anecdotes and practical strategies, we will explore how parenting is not just about shaping our children. It is also a journey of self-growth. The mirror effect. How teens reflect our deepest emotions. Throughout life, we encounter relationships that challenge us, forcing us to confront aspects of ourselves that we may prefer to ignore. Parenting, especially parenting a teenager, magnifies this experience. Unlike a colleague, friend, or even a spouse, a child has a unique ability to bring out our most deeply ingrained emotional patterns. Why? Because we are emotionally invested in our children in a way that we are with no one else. Their successes feel like our successes. Their failures feel like our failures. Their choices, good or bad, can trigger deep emotional responses within us because they hold so much meaning. But often, these reactions have roots that go far beyond the present moment. Imagine a mother who becomes intensely frustrated when her teenage son procrastinates on his schoolwork. She lectures him about responsibility, scolds him for wasting time, and feels a rising anger whenever she sees him scrolling through his phone instead of doing his assignments. But is her anger only about his procrastination? Or is there something more? Maybe she was a perfectionist growing up, someone who worked tirelessly to meet expectations and never allowed herself to slack off. Maybe she carries an unspoken fear that if her son doesn't push himself hard enough, he won't be successful, and deep down, that terrifies her. Maybe her reaction to his procrastination is not just about him. It is about her own lifelong struggle with self-worth and achievement. This is the mirror effect. When we take a step back, we often realize that what bothers us most in our teenagers is something that touches on our own wounds, fears, or past experiences. It may be an aspect of ourselves we have tried to suppress, a trait we were once criticized for, or an insecurity that we have never fully addressed. Reactive parenting versus reflective parenting. There are two ways we typically respond to our children's behavior: reactively or reflectively. 1. Reactive parenting. Reactive parenting happens when we respond to our teens' behavior without self-awareness. These reactions often come from a place of emotional charge, where past wounds, fears, or frustrations surface instantly. Reactive parenting looks like exploding in anger when a teen rolls their eyes or ignores instructions, jumping to conclusions about their future based on a single mistake, feeling personally insulted when they challenge our authority, letting frustration over their irresponsibility turn into a lecture that doesn't truly address the root issue. In these moments, our reaction is not just about the present situation. It is about everything it represents in our mind. If we fear failure, our teens' lack of motivation feels unbearable. If we struggled with self-doubt growing up, their confidence may seem almost offensive. If we were taught to always be respectful to authority, their questioning of our rules may feel like a deep personal betrayal. The problem with reactive parenting is that it often escalates conflict rather than resolves it. When we react emotionally, our teen often responds with defensiveness, creating a cycle where both parent and child feel misunderstood and frustrated. 2. Reflective parenting. Reflective parenting, on the other hand, requires self-awareness. It means pausing before reacting, asking why a certain behavior triggers such a strong response, and addressing the real issue rather than just the surface behavior. Reflective parenting looks like noticing that our frustration over their disorganization is connected to our own lifelong anxiety about control. Recognizing that their need for independence feels threatening because we struggle with letting go. Realizing that their struggles in school bring up painful memories of our own academic fears. Taking a deep breath before responding. Giving ourselves a moment to assess our emotions. Reflective parenting does not mean ignoring misbehavior or failing to set boundaries. It simply means that when we do respond, we do so with greater awareness of both our child's needs and our own emotional triggers. Personal anecdote. A parent's perfectionism reflected in their teen. Sarah had always been a high achiever. As a child, she had learned that success equaled worth, good grades, high performance, meeting expectations. She prided herself on being responsible, disciplined, and efficient. Her 17-year-old son, Jake, was the opposite. He was bright but often procrastinated. He started assignments at the last minute, left his room in chaos, and seemed to approach deadlines with a dangerous level of calm. Sarah found herself constantly frustrated with Jake's habits. She would nag, remind, and eventually explode in anger when he once again put off a project until the night before it was due. "Why can't you just be responsible?" she would shout. "Don't you care about your future?" One night, after another tense argument, Sarah sat alone and reflected. Why did Jake's procrastination make her so angry? Then it hit her. Jake's behavior wasn't just frustrating, it was triggering something deep inside her. She had spent her whole life avoiding failure at all costs, equating productivity with self-worth. Seeing Jake so relaxed about deadlines wasn't just annoying, it challenged a core belief she had carried her whole life, that not working hard enough meant not being good enough. In that moment, she realized her reaction had little to do with Jake, and everything to do with her own struggles. She decided to change her approach. Instead of lecturing him, she had an honest conversation. She admitted that she had spent her whole life fearing failure, and that it had made her rigid and anxious. She asked Jake how he viewed school, responsibility, and success. To her surprise, he opened up. He wasn't unmotivated. He just had a different way of managing stress. From that moment on, their relationship shifted. Sarah still encouraged Jake to be responsible, but she stopped projecting her own fears onto him. And in doing so, she also freed herself from the pressure of perfection. Chapter summary. Key takeaways. Observe your emotional triggers. If your teen's behavior sparks a strong emotional reaction, ask yourself why. What does it remind you of? What deeper fear or insecurity is being touched? Practice self-awareness before reacting. Instead of immediately responding out of frustration, take a moment to reflect on what you're feeling and why. Use conflicts as opportunities for personal growth. Every struggle with your teen is also an opportunity to understand yourself better, to heal old wounds, and to become a more mindful, aware parent. Teenagers are not just learning from us, we are also learning from them. In their defiance, we can learn patience. In their independence, we can learn trust. And in their struggles, we can find the strength to face our own. Chapter 3. Resilience teaching grit without forcing struggle. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor, but drowning isn't a lesson either. Every parent wants their child to be strong, capable, and able to face life's inevitable hardships with confidence. We hope that when adversity strikes, whether it's a failed test, a lost friendship, or a professional setback, our children will not crumble but will instead rise, learn, and keep moving forward. This ability to bounce back, to persevere in the face of challenges, is known as resilience. But resilience is not something we can simply give our children. We can't force them to be tough, nor can we remove every obstacle from their path and expect them to grow stronger. True resilience must be built from within. It is cultivated through experience, reflection, and the process of overcoming manageable struggles. Yet this presents a dilemma for parents. How do we prepare our children for the real world without exposing them to unnecessary hardship? How do we allow them to struggle without watching them suffer? How do we encourage growth without pushing them beyond their limits? The key lies in finding the balance between challenge and support. Too much struggle without guidance can lead to discouragement and anxiety, while too much protection can leave teens unprepared for reality. In this chapter, we will explore how to foster resilience through a concept known as controlled failure, a method of allowing teens to experience setbacks in a way that teaches valuable lessons without breaking their spirit. We will also discuss the importance of teaching teens how to process failure rather than fear it, and why perseverance should be celebrated over perfection. Finally, we will share a real-life story of a teen facing rejection from their dream college, and how their parent navigated the moment without rescuing them from the discomfort. The fine line between challenge and overwhelm. Resilience is often misunderstood. Some people equate it with toughness, assuming that the best way to make a child strong is to expose them to hardship without intervention. Others believe that protecting a child from every struggle will ensure their happiness. Both of these extremes are flawed. 1. The problem with overprotection. Many parents, often with the best intentions, try to shield their children from every possible failure or setback. They intervene when their child struggles, negotiate with teachers for better grades, step in to resolve conflicts, and smooth out life's rough edges. The problem with this approach is that it prevents children from developing essential coping skills. If a teen never experiences small failures, they won't know how to handle bigger failures later in life. Without exposure to struggle, they may grow up fearing failure, lacking problem-solving skills, or feeling entitled to success without effort. 2. The danger of excessive hardship. On the other end of the spectrum, some parents believe that the best way to toughen up their child is to let them struggle without support. They may say things like, "Life is tough, and they need to learn that now." While it's true that resilience is built through facing challenges, it's crucial to differentiate between healthy struggle and harmful suffering. Imagine teaching a child to swim. If you never let them enter the water, they will never learn. But if you throw them into the deep end without any preparation, they are more likely to panic and sink than to learn how to swim. The same principle applies to resilience. Children need gradual exposure to challenges with guidance and support, not overwhelming hardship that leaves them feeling helpless. The goal, then, is to provide the right amount of challenge, enough to promote growth, but not so much that it causes discouragement. The philosophy of controlled failure. One of the best ways to teach resilience is through controlled failure. This concept involves allowing teens to experience setbacks in a way that teaches them valuable lessons, while ensuring they have the support needed to process those experiences. What is controlled failure? Controlled failure means allowing teens to face natural consequences without immediately stepping in to fix everything, encouraging them to solve their own problems while offering guidance, creating opportunities for them to take risks in a safe environment. For example, if a teen forgets to bring their homework to school, a parent practicing controlled failure won't rush to bring it to them. Instead, they will allow the teen to experience the natural consequence of a lower grade, which teaches responsibility in a way that no lecture could. Why controlled failure works? It builds problem-solving skills. Teens learn how to adapt and find solutions. It reduces fear of failure. When failure is seen as part of learning rather than something to be ashamed of, teens become more willing to take healthy risks. It fosters independence. When teens are allowed to make decisions and experience consequences, they become more confident in their ability to navigate challenges. However, controlled failure requires careful balance. The goal is not to punish teens by letting them fail unnecessarily, but to empower them by allowing manageable struggles that prepare them for greater challenges ahead. Personal anecdote: facing college rejection. Lisa's 18-year-old son, Ryan, had always been a high achiever. He had worked tirelessly throughout high school, earning top grades and participating in countless extracurricular activities. His dream was to attend a prestigious university, and he had spent months perfecting his application. When the rejection letter arrived, Ryan was devastated. He locked himself in his room, barely speaking to anyone. Lisa's heart ached for her son. Every instinct told her to fix the situation, to call the admissions office, to reassure him that they could appeal the decision, to do something to take away his pain. But she stopped herself. Lisa realized that while she couldn't erase Ryan's disappointment, she could help him navigate it. Instead of rushing to fix things, she simply sat with him in his grief. She listened as he vented his frustration. She acknowledged that rejection hurts. And then, when he was ready, she gently asked, "What's next?" Over the next few days, Ryan began to shift his mindset. He started researching other universities and found an excellent alternative that he had previously overlooked. Eventually, he came to see the rejection not as a defining failure, but as a redirection. Had Lisa swooped in to rescue Ryan from his disappointment, he might not have developed the resilience to process setbacks. But by allowing him to feel his emotions, reflect, and then move forward on his own terms, she helped him build a skill that would serve him for a lifetime. Teaching teens to process failure, not fear it. Failure is not the enemy, it is a necessary part of growth. The problem is not that teens experience failure, but that many of them have never been taught how to handle it. 1. Reframe failure as growth. Help your teen see failure as a learning opportunity, rather than a reflection of their worth. Ask questions like, "What did you learn from this experience? What would you do differently next time? How can this setback help you in the future?" 2. Model resilience yourself. Teens learn by example. If they see you handling setbacks with grace, acknowledging disappointment, but moving forward, they are more likely to do the same. 3. Focus on effort, not just outcomes. Instead of praising only achievements, celebrate perseverance. Recognize hard work, problem-solving, and resilience. This teaches teens that success is about process, not just results. Chapter summary. Key takeaways. Struggle is a teacher. Suffering without support is not. Resilience is built through challenges. But teens need guidance to process their struggles in a healthy way. Teach teens how to process failure, not fear it. By normalizing failure as part of growth, we help them develop a mindset of perseverance. Celebrate perseverance, not just achievement. Encourage effort, learning, and resilience rather than only focusing on success. By allowing controlled failure, supporting without rescuing, and teaching teens to view setbacks as opportunities for growth, we empower them to navigate life's challenges with confidence. And in doing so, we give them something far more valuable than protection: We give them the strength to stand on their own. Chapter 4. The search for meaning, helping teens find purpose. Teens are not lost, they are exploring. Many parents worry when their teen seems unmotivated, unfocused, or uncertain about their future. They watch their child drift from one interest to another, start projects they never finish, or shrug indifferently when asked about their future plans. Why doesn't my teen have a passion? Why don't they seem driven like other kids? How will they succeed if they don't even know what they want to do? These concerns are understandable. In a world that celebrates high achievers, young entrepreneurs, academic prodigies, star athletes, it's easy to feel anxious when your child doesn't seem to have a clear direction. But what if uncertainty is not a problem, but a necessary stage of development? What if, rather than being lost, your teen is simply exploring? We tend to think of purpose as something a person finds, as though it's a single destination waiting to be discovered. But in reality, purpose is created, it is shaped through curiosity, experience, and adaptability. This chapter explores the evolving nature of purpose and why teens need space to experiment without pressure. We will discuss how exploration, rather than being a sign of laziness or indecision, is actually an essential part of growth. Through the lens of a parent's experience with their child's hobby hopping, we will see how shifting our perspective can turn frustration into support. Finally, we will highlight the importance of fostering curiosity, embracing adaptability, and allowing purpose to unfold naturally over time. The myth of a single purpose. There is a common misconception that every person has a singular, predetermined purpose in life, one true calling that they must discover in order to be fulfilled. This belief is reinforced by cultural narratives that highlight extraordinary individuals who seem to have known their path from childhood: Mozart, composing at 5, Olympic athletes training from infancy, tech geniuses launching businesses in their teens. The problem with this narrative is that it creates unrealistic pressure. It suggests that if a teen hasn't found their passion by a certain age, they are falling behind. It implies that those who explore multiple interests or change their minds are somehow lost or unfocused. But the truth is, most people don't have a single, lifelong passion. Even those who do often go through periods of doubt, evolution, and redirection. The reality is that meaning and purpose are not static. They change over time as we gain new experiences and perspectives. For teens, this means that uncertainty is not a sign of failure. It is a natural and necessary part of the process. Instead of worrying that they haven't yet discovered their thing, we should encourage them to explore, question, and experiment. Curiosity and experience. The building blocks of purpose. If purpose isn't something we simply find, how does it develop? The answer lies in curiosity and experience. 1. Curiosity as a guide. Purpose often begins with a simple curiosity, an interest in a topic, a fascination with a skill, a desire to understand something new. Curiosity is the spark that leads to deeper engagement, but only if it is nurtured rather than dismissed. Many teens are naturally curious, but they may not always express their curiosity in ways that seem productive. They might get obsessed with a niche topic, spend hours on YouTube tutorials, or dive into hobbies that seem trivial to adults. Parents might be tempted to redirect them toward more serious pursuits, but these moments of curiosity can be the seeds of future passion, if given the chance to grow. 2. Experience as a teacher. Just as curiosity sparks interest, experience shapes understanding. Teens learn what excites them and what doesn't by trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. A teen who thinks they want to be a veterinarian might realize they dislike working with animals once they volunteer at a shelter. Another who loves video games might discover a passion for coding after taking a programming class. Passion, service, and adaptability. While purpose is unique to each person, it often emerges from three core areas: passion, service, and adaptability. 1. Passion. The myths and realities. Passion is often romanticized as something that arrives fully formed like an epiphany. But in reality, passion is rarely instant. It develops over time through effort and engagement. Research suggests that passion is more likely to grow when people engage deeply with an activity, develop competence, and experience small successes along the way. In other words, teens may not feel passionate about something at first, but if they stick with it long enough to gain skills and confidence, passion often follows. Rather than expecting teens to find their passion, parents can encourage them to stick with activities long enough to see if genuine interest develops. However, it's also important to allow them the freedom to move on when something no longer resonates. 2. Service. Finding meaning through contribution. Many people discover purpose not through personal passion, but through service, by contributing to something larger than themselves. Teens who struggle to find intrinsic motivation may benefit from engaging in activities that help others, such as volunteering, mentoring younger students, or participating in community projects. When teens see that their efforts have a real impact, they begin to understand that purpose is not just about what they love, but also about how they contribute. 3. Adaptability. The key to long-term fulfillment. Perhaps the most important trait for a meaningful life is adaptability, the ability to evolve, shift interests, and redefine purpose as circumstances change. The average person today will change careers multiple times, learn new skills throughout their life, and pursue different passions at different stages. Teaching teens that it's okay to not have it all figured out will help them embrace change with confidence rather than fear. Personal anecdote. The hobby-hopping teen. For months, Mia felt frustrated with her 15-year-old son, Ethan. He would get deeply interested in something: photography, guitar, baking, only to abandon it a few weeks later. Each time, Mia felt exasperated. Why couldn't he just stick with something? It seemed like he lacked discipline or drive. One day, after Ethan decided to quit a painting class he had begged to take, Mia finally asked, "Why do you keep starting things and then quitting?" Ethan shrugged. "I don't know. I just like trying new things, but I guess I get bored after a while." Mia realized that she had been viewing his behavior through the wrong lens. She saw his shifting interests as quitting. But what if it was exploration? What if, instead of failing to commit, he was gathering data, figuring out what he liked, what he didn't, what excited him, and what didn't? From that moment on, Mia changed her approach. Instead of pressuring Ethan to pick one thing and stick with it, she encouraged his curiosity. She helped him find low-cost or temporary ways to experiment with new interests: short-term classes, online tutorials, and weekend workshops. Over time, Ethan discovered that while he enjoyed trying new things, photography remained a constant interest. He eventually pursued it more seriously, but only after years of exploration. Mia learned an important lesson. Purpose is not always a straight line. Sometimes it looks like a winding path filled with detours, and that's okay. Chapter summary. Key takeaways. Encourage curiosity over rigid goals. Instead of expecting teens to have a set direction, nurture their curiosity and allow them to explore different interests. Purpose is fluid and ever-evolving. What excites a teen today may change over time, and that's normal. Purpose develops through experience, not pressure. Teens need space to experiment, not pressure to decide their future prematurely. Supporting their exploration without judgment helps them develop self-awareness and adaptability. Instead of fearing uncertainty, we should embrace it. After all, the teenage years are not about having everything figured out. They are about figuring things out. And sometimes, the best way to find direction is to explore without fear of getting lost. Chapter 5. Gratitude and perspective shifting from entitlement to appreciation. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a way of seeing the world. Every parent has had a moment when their teen, seemingly oblivious to the effort and sacrifices made for them, complains about something trivial. The wrong dinner, the latest smartphone model they didn't get, a vacation that wasn't quite up to their expectations. In those moments, it's easy to think, why doesn't my child appreciate what they have? Many parents struggle with the feeling that their teen takes things for granted. They worry that their child is becoming entitled, expecting privileges without recognizing the effort behind them. This frustration often leads to lectures about how lucky they are, comparisons to kids who have nothing, or reminders of how different things were back in my day. But while these conversations may be well-intended, they rarely result in lasting gratitude. Instead, they often lead to eye rolls, dismissive nods, and minimal change in attitude. That's because gratitude is not something that can be taught through words alone. It is something that must be experienced. It is not an innate trait but a learned perspective, one that develops through awareness, reflection, and real-world encounters. This chapter explores how to cultivate genuine gratitude in teens, not through guilt or obligation, but through perspective shifts that help them recognize the value in their own lives. We will discuss the difference between forced gratitude and authentic appreciation, introduce the concept of reframing to help teens see opportunities instead of entitlements, and explore the importance of leading by example. Through a real-life story of a teen's eye-opening experience volunteering at a shelter, we will see how gratitude is most powerfully developed through action, not lectures. Forced gratitude versus genuine appreciation. It's tempting to think that gratitude is simply about recognizing one's blessings, but true gratitude goes beyond acknowledgement. It requires perspective. 1. The problem with forced gratitude. When parents see ungrateful behavior, they often try to counter it with guilt-based tactics. You should be grateful for what you have. Some kids don't even have food. When I was your age, we didn't have half of what you do. You don't realize how lucky you are. While statements like these may contain truth, they often fail to create lasting gratitude. Instead, they can lead to surface-level compliance. Teens may say, yeah, I know I'm lucky, just to end the conversation. Guilt instead of appreciation. Feeling bad about having privileges isn't the same as truly valuing them. Resistance or resentment. Being told to feel grateful can make teens feel criticized rather than inspired. Instead of lecturing about gratitude, a more effective approach is to help teens experience and internalize it in a meaningful way. 2. What creates genuine appreciation? Gratitude isn't about comparison. At least you have more than others. It's about perspective. It comes from personal experiences that highlight value, earning something through effort, seeing another perspective, practicing small daily reflections, recognizing the good in everyday life, understanding the unseen effort behind privileges, acknowledging what goes into the things we enjoy. This is where reframing comes in, a technique that helps shift the way teens perceive their lives and the things they might take for granted. Reframing, from I have to I get to. One of the most effective ways to cultivate gratitude is by shifting from an attitude of obligation to an attitude of opportunity. What is reframing? Reframing is the practice of changing the way we view a situation, helping us recognize hidden value where we might otherwise see inconvenience or entitlement. For example, teens often say things like, I have to go to school. I have to clean my room. I have to do this boring assignment. Each of these statements frames the experience as a burden, but with a small shift, they can be seen as opportunities. I get to go to school. Education is a privilege that many don't have. I get to clean my room. Having a home and belongings to take care of is something not everyone has. I get to do this assignment. Learning and developing skills is something that can open doors for the future. How reframing changes perspective. When teens start to see opportunities instead of obligations, gratitude naturally follows. They begin to recognize that many things they take for granted, education, safety, family, even small conveniences, are not guaranteed for everyone. This does not mean they should feel guilty, but rather that they can develop a deeper appreciation for what is often overlooked. Personal anecdote. A teen's perspective shift through volunteering. For years, 16-year-old Jordan's parents had struggled with his entitled attitude. He had grown up in a comfortable home, had the latest technology, and never had to worry about necessities. Yet, he constantly complained about minor inconveniences, his phone being outdated by a year, having to mow the lawn, his mom cooking dinner instead of ordering takeout. His parents tried everything: lectures about gratitude, reminders of how hard they worked, even taking away privileges. But nothing seemed to stick. One summer, his parents encouraged him to volunteer at a local homeless shelter. At first, Jordan resisted, seeing it as a punishment. But after his first shift, something shifted. That day, he met a boy named Marcus who was around his age. Marcus had been living in and out of shelters for the past year, relying on donated meals and wearing the same clothes for weeks at a time. They talked about music, video games, and school, except Marcus had dropped out because his family had to move constantly. As Jordan drove home that night, something hit him. He had spent years complaining about things Marcus could only dream of having. His own life, one he had seen as normal now, seemed filled with unnoticed privileges. The next time Jordan picked up his phone, he didn't complain that it was a year old. The next time his mom cooked dinner, he didn't whine about what was on the plate. His parents didn't tell him to be grateful. They didn't force appreciation through lectures. Instead, they gave him an experience that helped him see his life differently. Leading by example. Demonstrating gratitude in daily life. Teens are highly observant. They might not always listen to what we say, but they pay attention to what we do. If we want our children to cultivate gratitude, we must model it in our own lives. 1. Express gratitude out loud. Instead of complaining about a long workday, say, "I'm grateful to have a job that provides for us." Instead of sighing about making dinner, say, "I'm thankful we have food on the table tonight." 2. Show gratitude in relationships. Thank your teen for helping around the house, even for small things. Express appreciation for family members in front of your teen. 3. Create gratitude rituals. At dinner, ask, "What's one good thing that happened today?" Keep a family gratitude journal where everyone writes something they're thankful for once a week. When gratitude is woven into daily life, teens begin to internalize it naturally, not because they are told to, but because they see it in action. Chapter summary. Key takeaways. Gratitude is cultivated through experience, not lectures. Telling teens to be grateful doesn't work. They need real-world experiences that shift their perspective. Teach teens to shift from "I have to" I get to. Reframing challenges as opportunities helps cultivate appreciation. Lead by example. Demonstrate gratitude in daily life. The best way to raise a grateful child is to be a grateful adult. Gratitude is not about guilt, comparison, or forced appreciation. It is about perspective, learning to recognize and value the good in everyday life. When teens develop this mindset, entitlement naturally fades, and appreciation takes its place. Chapter 6. The balancing act: when to step in and when to step back. Support is not the same as control. Every parent has faced the question at some point: how involved should I be? Should I step in when my teen struggles with friendships, school, or responsibilities? Or should I let them figure it out on their own? Should I remind them of deadlines, offer solutions, and protect them from failure? Or is it better to allow them to experience the natural consequences of their choices? The answer is not simple because parenting is not one size fits all. Every child is different. Every situation is unique, and the balance between support and independence shifts over time. What works for one teen may not work for another, and what is helpful in one situation may be counterproductive in another. This chapter explores the concept of situational parenting, the ability to adjust your level of involvement based on the specific circumstances, your teen's personality, and their stage of development. We will examine the importance of allowing natural consequences while recognizing when parental guidance is necessary. Through a personal anecdote of a parent resisting the urge to fix their teen's friendship drama, we will see how stepping back can empower teens to build resilience and problem-solving skills. By the end of this chapter, you will have a clearer understanding of when to intervene, when to hold back, and how to foster independence while still providing essential support. Situational parenting. The art of knowing when to step in and when to step back. Parenting is a balancing act. Too much involvement can make a teen feel smothered or incapable, while too little involvement can leave them feeling abandoned or unprepared. The key is to assess each situation individually, considering the nature of the problem. Is this a life-altering crisis or a temporary challenge? Your teen's emotional maturity. Can they handle this on their own? Long-term development. Will stepping in help them grow? Or will it prevent them from learning an important skill? 1. When to step in. Providing support without taking over. There are times when parental involvement is necessary. In these cases, stepping in is not about control, it is about ensuring safety, offering guidance, and providing a foundation for learning. You should step in when safety is at risk. If your teen is in danger physically, emotionally, or mentally, it is your responsibility to intervene. This includes situations involving substance abuse, self-harm, bullying, or unhealthy relationships. The stakes are too high for them to handle alone. Some situations require adult intervention because a teen lacks the experience or authority to resolve them, such as serious school conflicts or legal matters. They need temporary guidance to build skills. Sometimes, teens simply need help learning how to handle a situation before they can do it on their own. In these cases, stepping in should be about teaching, not taking over. When you do step in, focus on collaborative problem-solving rather than control. Instead of saying, "I'll handle this," try asking, "What do you think we should do? How can I support you in solving this?" This allows your teen to develop confidence while still benefiting from your experience. 2. When to step back. Letting natural consequences do the teaching. One of the hardest things for parents to do is step back and let their child struggle. But struggle is a key part of learning and growth. You should step back when the situation is not life-threatening or dangerous. If the worst consequence is disappointment, embarrassment, or failure, it is likely an opportunity for growth rather than a crisis. Your teen can solve the problem on their own. Even if they ask for help, sometimes the best way to support them is to let them figure it out. Intervening would send the wrong message. Constantly stepping in can unintentionally teach a teen that they are incapable of handling challenges. Allowing natural consequences can be difficult, but it is often the most powerful teacher. If a teen forgets to study for a test and gets a low grade, they learn that preparation matters. If they don't do their laundry and run out of clean clothes, they learn responsibility. These experiences build resilience and problem-solving skills lessons that will serve them far beyond adolescence. Personal anecdote. resisting the urge to fix friendship drama. Kara had always been close with her 15-year-old daughter, Emily. They talked openly about everything until Emily started high school. Suddenly, their easy conversations turned into vague, one-word answers. "I'm fine. It's whatever. I don't want to talk about it." Kara sensed something was wrong. After weeks of gentle probing, Emily finally opened up. She was having friendship troubles. Her two closest friends had started leaving her out, and she didn't know why. They weren't outright mean, but they had become distant, making inside jokes that didn't include her and cancelling plans at the last minute. Kara's first instinct was to fix it. She wanted to call the girls' parents, ask teachers if they had noticed anything, or even sit Emily down and coach her through exactly what to say. She hated seeing her daughter hurt. But something held her back. She realized that if she stepped in, Emily might feel like she wasn't capable of handling her own friendships. So instead of taking control, Kara took a different approach. She said, "That sounds really painful. Do you want advice, or do you just need me to listen?" Emily hesitated, then sighed. "I don't know what to do." Kara resisted the urge to offer solutions. Instead, she asked, "What do you think might be going on?" Through their conversation, Emily began processing her own emotions. She recognized that her friends' behavior might not be personal. They were making new friends and navigating their own changes. Over the next few weeks, Emily decided to give them space while also making an effort to connect with new people. Had Kara stepped in, Emily might not have developed the confidence to handle similar conflicts in the future. But because she stepped back, Emily gained the experience of working through emotions, making decisions and adjusting to change, valuable skills that would serve her for years to come. Empowering teens with problem-solving skills. Instead of fixing problems for teens, parents should focus on equipping them with the tools to navigate challenges on their own. 1. Ask instead of tell. Instead of "you need to do this," try, "What do you think would help?" Instead of "let me handle it," try, "what are your options?" When teens are encouraged to come up with solutions, they develop confidence in their own decision-making abilities. 2. Normalize mistakes as part of growth. Teens often fear making the wrong choice. Remind them that mistakes are a natural part of learning. Instead of saying, "You should have known better," try, "What did you learn from this?" 3. Encourage reflection. After your teen faces a challenge, ask, "What did you learn? What worked and what didn't? How would you handle a similar situation next time?" Reflection turns mistakes into learning experiences and strengthens problem-solving skills for the future. Chapter summary. Key takeaways. Step in for safety. Step back for growth. Knowing when to intervene and when to let go is a crucial part of raising an independent teen. Ask, "Is this my lesson to teach or theirs to learn?" Not every struggle requires parental involvement. Some lessons are best learned through experience. Empower teens with problem-solving skills instead of rescuing them. Encourage independence by guiding rather than controlling, supporting rather than solving. Parenting is a lifelong balancing act, and there will be times when you get it wrong. But by learning when to step in and when to step back, you give your teen the greatest gift of all, the confidence to navigate life's challenges with resilience, wisdom, and strength. Conclusion. Parenting as a lifelong conversation. Parenting is often thought of as a task, a job with a clear goal, a series of steps, and a set timeline. But in reality, it is something far more fluid and complex. It is a lifelong conversation, a dynamic and evolving relationship that changes as both parent and child grow. As your teen transitions into adulthood, your role as a parent will shift. The structure and discipline that once defined your relationship will give way to guidance and mentorship. The authority you once held will be replaced by influence. And the conversations you have today about trust, resilience, purpose, gratitude, and independence will set the foundation for the relationship you will have for years to come. This book has not been about providing rigid rules or quick fixes, because no such thing exists in parenting. Instead, it has been about offering guiding principles ideas that can help you navigate the complexities of raising a teenager with wisdom, patience, and trust. One of the most important lessons of parenting is that you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to prevent every mistake or solve every problem. Your role is not to control your child's life, but to walk alongside them, offering support, love, and guidance as they figure things out for themselves. Letting go of control, embracing connection. If there is one central theme that has emerged throughout this book, it is that parenting is not about control, it is about connection. Many parents worry that if they don't exert enough control over their teen, their child will make poor choices, fail, or stray too far from the path they had envisioned. But the reality is that excessive control does not prevent mistakes. It often pushes teens further away. What truly shapes a teen's growth is not how tightly we hold on to them, but how deeply we connect with them. When a teenager feels heard, respected, and understood, they are far more likely to turn to their parents for guidance. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Connection, rather than control, is what creates trust. Trust is the foundation of parenting. Trust is the cornerstone of any meaningful relationship. And parenting is no exception. But trust is not just about your teen proving they are responsible. It is also about you demonstrating that you trust them to grow, to learn, and to navigate life on their own terms. It is easy to trust a teen when they make good choices. The challenge is trusting them when they struggle, when they fail a class, make a bad decision, or take a path that is different from what you expected. Trust does not mean blind faith or ignoring real concerns. It means believing in your teen's ability to learn from experience. It means resisting the urge to step in and fix things, even when it's hard to watch them struggle. And it means showing them that your love is not conditional on their perfection, but rather on their growth. The power of parenting with curiosity. One of the most powerful shifts you can make as a parent is moving from certainty to curiosity. Many of the struggles between parents and teens arise because parents believe they already know the answers, how their teen should behave, what their future should look like, and what choices are right for them. But what if, instead of assuming you already know, you approached parenting with curiosity? What if, instead of thinking, "Why is my teen acting this way?" you asked, "What might they be feeling?" What if, instead of assuming, "They just don't care," you asked, "What is making them disengage?" What if, instead of asking, "How do I make my teen listen?" you asked, "How can I make them feel heard?" Curiosity creates understanding, and understanding fosters connection. When you approach your teen with curiosity instead of judgment, you create an environment where real conversations can happen, where they feel safe opening up, asking for help, and sharing their struggles. Do I believe that strict discipline is the best way to teach responsibility? Or would a different approach be more effective? Do I assume that failure is dangerous, or do I recognize it as a necessary part of growth? Do I expect my teen to follow a predetermined path, or am I open to them forging their own? Parenting is not just about shaping your teen, it is also about growing yourself. Being willing to question, adapt, and evolve is one of the greatest gifts you can offer your child. Modeling the values you want to see. Teens learn far more from what they see than from what they are told. If you want your teen to be respectful toward them. If you want your teen to be responsible, show them responsibility in action. If you want your teen to handle conflict with maturity, model how to do so. More than any lecture or rule, the way you live your own life teaches your child what it means to be an adult. They are watching, listening, and absorbing more than you realize. Ask yourself, how do I handle setbacks? Do I react with frustration, or do I approach them as learning opportunities? How do I treat others? Do I demonstrate empathy and respect, even when I disagree with someone? How do I take care of myself? Do I model self-care, boundaries, and emotional regulation? Your teen may not always show it, but they are learning from you every day. Shifting from fear-based to trust-based parenting. Fear is a powerful force in parenting. Many of the strictest rules, biggest arguments, and most emotional conflicts stem from fear that your teen will make a mistake, that they won't succeed, or that they will struggle more than they need to. But fear-based parenting often leads to control, conflict, and disconnection. Trust-based parenting, on the other hand, focuses on guidance, open communication, and belief in your child's ability to grow. Shifting from fear to trust means letting go of the need to control every outcome. Your teen's journey will be unique, and that's okay. Accepting that mistakes are part of learning. Failure is not the enemy, it is a stepping stone to growth. 1. What is one parenting belief I need to re-evaluate? Are there any assumptions or expectations I need to adjust as my child grows? 2. How can I model the values I want my teen to adopt? Am I living in a way that demonstrates respect, responsibility, and resilience? 3. In what ways can I shift from fear-based parenting to trust-based parenting? How can I focus more on connection and less on control? Final thoughts. The journey continues. Parenting does not end when your child turns 18. The conversations you have today will shape the relationship you have for years to come. Your teen may not always agree with you. They may push back, challenge, and even distance themselves at times. But if you have built a foundation of trust, respect, and open communication, they will always know they have a safe place to return to. In the end, parenting is not about having all the answers, it is about being willing to listen, to learn, and to grow alongside your child. And that, more than anything, is what will shape the lifelong connection between you and your teen. Author's message. Parenting is one of the most complex, challenging, and rewarding journeys we will ever take. It's a path filled with uncertainty, self-doubt, and moments where we wonder if we're doing it right. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. There is no perfect way to parent, only a willingness to grow, learn, and adapt alongside our children. This book was never about giving you rigid rules or a step-by-step formula. Instead, it was about offering perspective, about shifting the focus from control to connection, from fear to trust, from raising a teenager to growing alongside them. If you've made it this far, I hope you walk away feeling not only more confident in your parenting, but also more compassionate toward yourself. Because parenting is not about having all the answers. It's about being open to the conversation. Your relationship with your teen will continue to evolve. There will be difficult moments, unexpected challenges, and times when you feel like you're getting it all wrong. But there will also be breakthroughs, deep conversations, and moments of connection that remind you why this journey is worth every effort. So, as you move forward, I encourage you to trust the process. Growth is messy, but every challenge holds an opportunity. Stay open. Your teen is learning, and so are you. Let curiosity replace judgment. Prioritize connection. More than rules or discipline, what your teen needs most is to know that they are heard, valued, and loved. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your parenting journey. If this book resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Let's keep the conversation going. Wishing you wisdom, patience, and many meaningful moments ahead. Cherry C.